Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition and we turn now to poem 740, You Taught Me Waiting with Myself. Now, right away we're going to have a difficulty here knowing exactly who the you of this poem is. Right away we're going to be back with poem 679. You will remember when we did this one. Conscious am I in my chamber of a shapeless friend. He doth not attest by posture nor confirm by word. Neither place need I present him. Fitter courtesy, hospitable intuition of his company. Presence is his furthest license. Neither he to me nor myself to him by accident. Fortify probity. Weariness of him were quainter than monotony. Knew a particle of space's vast society. Neither if he visit other do he dwell or nay, no I, but instinct esteem him immortality. And you'll remember as well when we did 738, you said that I was great one day, then great if it be if that please thee, or small or any size at all. Nay, I'm the size suit thee, tall like the stag, would that, or lower like the wren, or other heights of other ones I've seen. Tell which, it's dull to guess, and I must be rhinoceros or mouse at once for thee. So say, if queen it be, or page please thee, I'm that, or not, or other thing, if other thing there be, with just this stipulus, I suit thee. When published for the first time, in 1929, it was published in the London Mercury. We're back to another education poem. We're back to Emily as student. We're back to Emily trying to figure out how to learn something important about herself and her life. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily's our playlist. I'm hoping you worked through our set of introductory comments where we commented about Emily as student. She is curious all through her life, as is evidenced not only through her poetry, but also through her letters, and what others had to say about her, especially when they had conversations with her. She's always asking questions. I'm also hopeful that you've already worked through the preceding 739 poems. We just finished with 739. I many times thought peace had come. And I mean, even that poem itself will work rather nicely with this poem. In other words, there are things we hope that we can learn, and then things often turn out otherwise. It's another poem about patience. I mean, hear that waiting with myself, and think about Emily's contemporary Longfellow at the end of Psalm of Life. Learn to labor and to wait. The word wait is the last word of that poem. Obviously, the question is Emily teaching herself? Alfred Herberger, the scholar, has called this another survival narrative. But I think Emily is actually dancing with her King James Version of the Bible again. I think she's working with a couple of different passages here that she'll make reference to. You will remember in Luke 9:26, Christ says, For whosoever shall be ashamed of me and of my words, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he shall come in his own glory, and in his Father's, and of the holy angels. And then Matthew 25:31 through 34. Again, we're working with the King James Version that Emily loved. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Now, I think Emily is dancing with these two ideas, as she is as well talking about whoever the you of this poem is teaching her. You taught me waiting with myself, appointment strictly kept. You taught me fortitude of fate. This also I have learnt. An altitude of death that could no bitterer debar than life had done before it. Yet there is a science more, the heaven you know to understand, that you be not ashamed of me in Christ's bright audience upon the further hand. Can't read Christ's bright audience and not think, obviously, the King James Bible, but also Milton's Paradise Lost and some of those wonderful passages where Milton tries to describe the complete pantheon of angels in heaven. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net over all of that. Now, who is the you who taught Emily? Farr, the great scholar, has said she thinks it's Sam Boyle's, maybe even the master. We were back to the master discussion poems of 738. Ruth Miller, the scholar, has said, no, I think this is actually God as teacher, and claims that 679 is probably the best way to think about that one. Whoever it is, you taught me waiting with myself. Now, obviously, think of the power of the contemporary Walt Whitman, who will write his most famous poem called what? Song of Myself. And I can't help but think of the Song of Myself passage. We've given full lectures on every poem of Whitman's Leaves of Grass, deathbed edition, 1892. We call that series Talks with Walt. This series obviously Chats with Emily. You'll remember in our study of Song of Myself, especially 46, 47, I know I have the best of time and space who was never measured and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey all. The idea of the tension that is always played out in Song of Myself between the speaker and his or her alternate self. Notice here, you taught me waiting with myself, myself capitalized, appointment strictly kept. Notice the language here of science, the language of mathematics, the language of particular domains of investigation. Appointment strictly kept. And then she'll say it a second time. You taught me fortitude, which is really just another phrase for waiting. Maybe we would call it some form of discipline of, and then notice fate capitalized. This dash, also dash, I have learned dash. The idea being, whether I wanted to learn it or not, you taught it to me. And then she'll say it, an altitude of death, notice death capitalized. We mentioned 135 of her points, she mentions death, that could no bitter debar, notice again the legal language, Emily of course growing up in a house of lawyers, right? Then life had done before it. In other words, I was learning this long before I came into contact with death, yet there is a science more, notice science capitalized. In other words, Emily, the student who didn't have a lot of formal education, and yet the formal education that she had, scholars have pointed out, like Sewell and others, she clearly was very influenced by it here, referencing the true science, if you will. The stuff that I really had to learn was what? Then I don't get what I want. I had to learn to wait. I had to learn fortitude. The heaven you know. Now again, whoever the you is, again, Miller thinks this is God, and Farr thinks it's Sam Boyle's. The heaven you know to understand that you be not ashamed. Now we're going back to that Luke 9:26 verse I just read. Of me in Christ's bright audience. Again, back to the Matthew 25 and 33 passage. In Christ's bright audience, upon the further hand, that is to say, the right hand versus the left hand. Emily's saying, I'm pretty hopeful I'm going to be on the right hand. By the way, we're going to play around with some of these same ideas, 742. 4 trees upon a solitary acre without design or order or apparent action maintained. The sun upon a morning meets them. The wind no nearer neighbor have they but God. The acre gives them place. They him attention of passerby, of shadow or of squirrel haply or boy. What deed is theirs unto the general nature? What plan they severely retard or further unknown? Notice the use of the word plan there. And then when we get to poem 750, growth of man, like growth of nature, gravitates within. Atmosphere and sun endorse it, but it stir alone. Each its difficult ideal must achieve itself. Again, myself, itself. Through the solitary process of a silent life. Again, this idea of fortitude. Effort is the soul condition, patience of itself, patience of opposing forces, and intact belief. Looking on is the department of his audience, but transaction is assisted by no countenance. What is exactly the point of this poem? I think, as one scholar has said, quote, there is an inherent dignity of the things that act independently, end quote. And I think that's the point. In other words, there's a whole lot of learning that has to happen, and all we can do is just wait for that kind of happening, of learning to happen. At 2b, well, obviously the question of the poem is, who is the you that taught Emily all of this? She could be speaking to her alternate ego herself as writer. In other words, I have to wait, if you will. At 3a, well, we mentioned, of course, Psalm of Life, learn to labor, let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. And of course, we can think about the Whitman passages that we were working with as well. Finally, in 3B, to own a poem like this, what was a time in your life when you had to learn the hard way, if you want to say it that way, the waiting way, the patience way, the way that leads to fortitude? Thank you.